Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unnext News Radio podcast, your news source for all things unexplained. And now, here's your host for the Unnext News podcast, Margie K.
Welcome to Unnext News Radio. I'm your host, Margie K., and this is the place where we talk about all things unexplained. Today, I have two very special people on the program. These two gentlemen worked with me on a book. We collaborated on this book together, and I thought we would delve a little bit more into their background and how they got interested in this subject. I've got Wayne Lawrence. He is the chief field investigator with Missouri MUFON, a chapter of the Mutual UFO Network. He enjoys investigating the various sighting cases he's been assigned, as well as his own sightings, and he's had quite a few. He's also made numerous video lecture presentations and exhibits data from cases that he's investigated. Wayne has been a frequent presenter at local and state MUFON meetings and on talk shows. He was a presenter at the Paracon conference, and he has done many talks, including discoveries on the moon and Mars, solar visitors, and his own UFO sightings. Wayne grew up in French Polynesia, where he learned 3 languages, and he's currently fluent in 5. He attended seminary, graduating with a master's degree, and worked full-time, just recently retired, for international translations for a global denomination. And he lives in Lee Summit with his wife, his 2 married children, and 3 grandsons. We also have Bill Spicer, aircraft engineering consultant. He works as a design and technical lead for a small aviation design company. He has an aviation career that spans 45 years. Bill graduated from Kansas State University with a degree in design and has worked on numerous aircraft before specializing in the interior arrangements and certification. He authored and self-published an academic textbook on aircraft interior design titled Introduction to Aircraft Interiors. In addition, he also holds a private pilot certificate and remote U.S. drone pilot certificate and is an active aviation enthusiast. He's also an amateur astronomer and has made commercial videos using his drone for small businesses. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to have both of you. And we worked on this book together for quite some time, but it has been a while since we have spoken to each other. Let's start with you, Bill. You know, about your early childhood. Where were you born and where were you brought up?
Well, I was actually born in Louisiana, and at a young age of 2, moved to Wichita, Kansas, where my dad worked in the aircraft industry here. Spent my younger years here in the Wichita area, and then eventually we moved to Salina, Kansas, where I went to high school and started flying aircraft, learned how to fly when I was in high school. Went from there, went to K-State, then launched my career in 1980 working in the aircraft industry and moved around a few other cities during that. Lived in Texas at one time, down in San Antonio. I ended up moving back to Wichita because this was the air capital of the world at the time. Have been in business doing that and raised 2 sons and have lived here since about 1984, 85 actually. So that's been my experience. It's been fun.
How did you first get interested in UFOs?
Well, it started at the age of 15. I was with a friend of mine and his parents driving back one night back to Salina, and we had a UFO encounter. Bright flash of light, and it was at night, and this craft came out of the sky and was right there in the middle of the highway, probably less than 1/8 of a mile in front of us, and sat there. We came to a complete stop, and then it shot off to the north after about 15 seconds. That the whole thing happened in about 15 seconds. And the next day I went to talk to my friend and his parents about it, after we got home. And I said, well, that was an interesting thing we saw last night. And they didn't remember any of it. And that just kind of played in my mind. I was like, wait a minute, you didn't see that? You stopped the car because I about went through the windshield. That's how fast we stopped. And that was my experience of starting to ask questions. Well, I know I'm of sound mind, and at the time, at the time I was already kind of thinking about being an engineer or working on aircraft because I was had signed up for flying lessons and everything. So I even went and checked with the FAA the next day. That Sunday afternoon, I rode out using my bicycle, believe it or not, out to the FAA's flight station they have out there at Salina, and described where this was on a map. I showed the guy, and he says, "Son, go home. Nothing happened." And I got the runaround at an early age.
Wow.
Which is typical. This is in the 1970s, early 70s. So that's how that began, as a strange encounter, and it never left me. I mean, I remember all the details, what I saw. And I guess later on, the next step was as I...
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
At the University of K-State.
Oh my gosh.
I worked in the summers.
They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
And on Friday the 13th of August, 1976, I got stung by bumblebees, a whole swarm of them, and barely made it to an emergency room. And I had a near-death experience and left my body temporarily and got put back in rather abruptly. And that's when I began to understand that I could meditate and have experiences outside the body, I guess, explore other things and understand that things were what I use the word quantum. Everything that you can't see, if our consciousness is there, things can be done through thought. And I eventually called it visual thought, but others, as I started reading up and studied a little bit more about quantum physics, that's where I started to put all of this together. And I did have a few other strange experiences after that, with strange noises that would happen outside my home at night when I was sleeping, and I'd wake up and I'd hear strange noises. I don't sense that I was ever